I was looking through and reminiscing on a bunch of old pictures that we have stored away in our house, and my wife showed me these. I forgot all about these. And these two pictures are from our homestead in Alaska when I was a little kid, right around the ages of 5 to 6 years old. And I wanted to show these just because, you know, I've said before to some of my viewers, just in conversations, comments and whatnot, that, you know, I lived out in the woods for a while growing up. And sometimes when somebody says that, you get a lot of looks like, oh yeah, right, sure, whatever, buddy. You know, they kind of give you that look like you're just some guy fantasy playing or whatnot, trying to make people believe that you are a rugged kid growing up and all this good stuff. But I just wanted to show these pictures because, you know, I'm blessed enough to say that, yes, I did spend just a little bit of my lifetime as a child out in the woods, living the life kind of like of a woodsman's life. We didn't have much, and this period in my life when I was a kid was where I was introduced to firearms and where I learned my initial marksmanship skills. My father taught me a lot about firearms. I had my very own .22 at the time. We had some different rifles. We had two other rifles, and we had a shotgun. And I had a .22 bolt action that had iron sights on it, and I remember getting a scope put on that later on. I really wish I still had that .22, but things happen over time, and it got sold or whatnot long ago. But in any case, this was my environment when I was a kid. And I tell you what, I learned so many things, and I still have so many awesome memories. I didn't have video games. I didn't have any of that, any of the niceties that a lot of kids had. This was our first, pretty much a shack that we built. And the reason we built this is it was real easy to build, and it provided shelter while we were building that. That was our cabin. But this was in Alaska, in a place called Slana, Alaska. There was only a handful of people out there, and down the road, I think a few miles, 5 or 10 miles, there was a lodge out there that had some bush pilots based out of it, and I think that's where they did guides for hunters or whatnot. But this was the first shed, very small as you can see, and this was still being built. You can see the logs aren't all the way up on top here. When it got finished, we had logs all the way up, and then we had the lean-to style roof finished. And this was a sturdy little shack. There was a bunk bed right here. I slept on top. My parents slept on the bottom, and there was just a little bit of table. There was a little kind of small wood stove in there for cooking and whatnot, and that was it. That's all we had. What wasn't shown in this picture right over here was, I remember there was a three-wheeler we had, a couple other little items and whatnot, a couple storage boxes and whatnot, and that was it. Now, we kind of upgraded, so to speak, when this was built. This was our cabin. And this was a basic cabin, but it was very well made. As you can see, there's a couple of my toys that I had. We would go to Glen Allen, Alaska once a month to get supplies and whatnot. And, you know, as my parents could, if they were able to scrounge up some cash or whatnot, they'd go to like a thrift store or whatever that happened to be there in Glen Allen. They would pick up some toys for me. There's a couple of my toys there. And I have so many memories as a child of this place. It was a very robust cabin, very well built. I have no doubts that it's still there today. I'd love to find out if it really is still there. I mean, I'm sure it is, but you never know. But, you know, there's a lot of memories. A lot of memories of looking out the front door here when I was a kid and seeing a moose walk right by. Or sometimes a bear. Because in this area of Alaska where we were, dangerous animals were a normal day-to-day thing. Moose, wolves, bears, you name it, it was out there. And, you know, again, just the experience of living out in the woods for that amount of time is just something I'll never ever forget. you know, having to walk down. We used to walk, myself and my mother. We had a little cart. It was a wheeled cart, and we would walk down. It was about a mile, mile and a half, somewhere around there. We'd walk down from the cabin to a place called Rufus Creek. In Rufus Creek, the water was so clear that we could take water directly out of that creek. And we used to do that. We used to sit there and fill up some buckets, and then we'd pull it back. And I remember I'd help my mom do that. And that was our fresh water. We'd do that every so often as we ran out of fresh water. For food, we did a lot of hunting, me included. You know, it wasn't uncommon that my dad would step right outside of this cabin and he'd see an animal and he'd smack that animal with his 30-06 rifle, and there's some more food. You know, did a lot of fishing out there. There was a lot of creeks, rivers nearby that you can go for, you know, all kinds of stuff. Arctic grayling, whitefish, many different types of little fish, certain species of trout, I can't remember. But I remember fish was always on the menu. So it was one of those things. I remember the times out there. I remember the lessons that I learned from my dad. When I was introduced to the world of firearms, this is it. This was the beginning of the world of firearms for me. So I just wanted to show that to you real quick. Just a little bit of history of where I'm coming from. I'm a Montanan now, but I'll always be an Alaskan at heart. So alright, enough rambling, just kind of a little trip down memory lane for me. Hope you enjoyed it, and you know, I encourage you guys to share some of your experiences, especially pertaining to firearms, since that's what my channel's about. You know, this was my beginning in the world of firearms out in the woods of Alaska, and everybody has their own stories about how they began with firearms, and there's nothing wrong with sharing that. So alright, thanks a lot for watching, and keep it safe.